Good morning, all. It is the 24th of June, getting down to the wind down of another month. And of course, seeing how things shook out for our month wasn't as aggressive as all the other months. Now, we still had a lot of people that were doing loan applications, wanting to get pre-qualified for when the deal comes about. But we have a massive amount of people sitting there with qualifications, their pre-qual letter ready to go buy, but they're just not finding anything to buy. But we're also finding inventory starting to open up a little bit in different parts of the world. So I personally, just from what I'm seeing, think that there could start to be some opening of the inventory. We're starting to see people kind of taper off of some of the purchases they were going to do. So those who are a little bit afraid of the interest rates and they're afraid of what's going on in the market, they're going to probably put some inventory out there for you. So be aware of that. Like we always talk about when it comes to the rates and stuff, just know that's not as scary as it really is. So a couple of things I want to talk about here. So last message talking about blood in the streets. It ain't quite flowing yet, but I think it's coming, right? And everybody thinks it's coming. So what my reason for talking about that is because when it does, you got to be prepared in advance. Rather than me telling you that it's already flowed, right, that you should have taken advantage of it, I want to tell you, just be prepared. Have some dry powder so you can get involved in some of these things. Right now, I've got a lot of stuff out there that's invested. I want to, hopefully some of these will return real quick so I can get a little bit more dry powder so when this hits. But we've got to be prepared for it, right? So we need to talk about it now. We got to let you guys know now that it's going to happen. So when it does happen, you can take advantage of it, right? Get your mind around it. Start thinking about it. Start looking into these things. Start getting your, at least your focus in a way you can recognize a little bit better than you recognized before. All right. So that's why I talk about that. Not somebody say that's already bleeding. There is some blood, man. There's wounds out there. There's some blood here, but is it flowing? Not quite yet, but there's a chance that it does. Well, we also have what it's coming from different members of the Fed saying, well, this is actually a couple of years of recessions. I mean, a couple of years later from now, we're going to have inflation under control. Things are in place to put that in control. The White House is saying we have an amazing economy. Guys, you be your own damn judge on that one. I'm sure just by the look on my freaking face where I believe they are with that. Everything is telling us, or everything we've read, is we've never seen this kind of situation before. None of this has come up before. This has been created by stupid actions of others trying to quell something and make everything seem rosy when it really wasn't, when you just could have let the market take care of itself. Well, now we're paying for it. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. We have no idea where it's going to go, right? I've got a lot of people saying, well, what's the ARM rates right now? How about I get an ARM? Because everybody says I should get an ARM because when the rates go down, I could refinance. Guys, that's a stupid move. One who's telling you to do that, people that are telling you to do that are doing one just on speculation. They don't know if the rates are going to go down. What tells us the rates are going to go down? The rates will go down from where they were if we get trillions of dollars pumped back in the economy. Has that ever happened before? You go back in the history of things, we never saw the interest rates that low. And we saw they were that low because of the trillions pumped in by the Federal Reserve. What happened when the Federal Reserve pumped it all in? They kept it going until they could sustain it. When they couldn't sustain it anymore, they're starting to taper back. What's the result? Inflation, ridiculous inflation. What has to happen to quell inflation? They got to raise the rates. Are they raising the rates? Not fast enough. We go back to the last time we had rates like this, when Paul Volcker was running the Fed. He had run the federal fund rate up in the teens, right? 16, 17, I don't know the exact number, but he ran it the hell up. So since he run it up like that, that's what got things under control. We got hit with a recession right after that. That's what's coming. They're not moving it fast enough. Now, is that going to be the end all be all, raising the rates? I don't know, right? We haven't seen this before. Hard to say. All the people that are speculating on this, the majority of them have never worked anywhere but the Fed or in the education system. One thing we know about the education system, people are instructing others on theory, not practical application. So because of that, the majority of them, except two, don't have a lot of practical experience, in my opinion, to be able to talk on this, because they're going off of what they know from the Fed. Also, and the theories of their educations. The two that were outside the Fed were part of an organization that's so involved in corruption that not even worth talking about. So that's what we're dealing with. So I think that what you should be doing, my opinion, right? I can tell you all day long what I'm doing. You got to choose for yourself. Get what you can control. We can control a 30-year fixed, right? You know what that rate's going to be. You don't know what it's going to be down the road when you get an ARM. At that point, Who knows what's going to happen? Some people say, well, I might only have the house for 5 years. You don't know that. The house that I just moved out of, I bought that thing in 2002. I intended to move in, be in there 7 years. I was in there 19 years. Now my daughter lives in it. I rented it to her. I still own it. So just so you know, you can't guarantee what's going to end up happening. Your intentions today will change with circumstances of your life down the road, right? You want to get intention, you want to write things out, but it can change. And not that it's bad that it changes. Sometimes it gets better, right? But also circumstances outside of your control can influence it negatively. That's why I'm saying stay away from the damned arm. Anybody in my industry, the lending industry, tells you go for the arm. Let me tell you why. Because everybody who's talking about it, anybody in a so-called leadership position saying go for the arm is because here's the freaking sentence that follows that on selling the arm, is because you're creating your refinance client down the road. That's what they're doing. And if you're in a situation where you're in the arm and you tend to sell, you're going to have to sell and pick up another property, right? Well, now again, you're creating your client for down the road. Right? They're going to ensure you have that refinance client. That's not how I operate. Any of you who are listening here that have called me when the interest rates are low and say, hey, I want to refinance just for rate. We spent a long time talking about why you should not do that, but your choice. I'll do what you want. I'm going to inform you the best I can from what I understand from my experience of 24 years, coming up on 25 of doing this. And then you make your own damn decision. You're the CEO of your business. I'm just the guy giving advice from the experience that I have and all the people I've worked with, thousands and thousands of investors. So let's get into the charts here. I've preached long enough. Let me see here. We've got so many screens up. I don't even know where my charts are at. Here we go. All right. So what I'm showing you right now is the 10-year treasury. Everybody likes to look at the 10-year and see what it's doing versus the mortgage-backed securities. This is the MBS 4.0, right? So the reason I'm looking at the 4.0, because that was one of these analysts were looking at that earlier, and I had that up. I'll switch it to the 4.5 here in a second. What that means is 4.5 meaning, or 4.0, whoever invests in that particular coupon, in that pool of money, they're getting back a 4% return on their investment. The interest rate will be higher than that because there is so much margin in there. You have to get all the people who are going to securitize this, those who are going to service it, those who are going to sell it, all that. So that's why the interest rate's higher. They need to have a margin in there to be able to cover all those services. You can't just go directly to the person who put the money up, the Wall Street investor over on the other side of the planet, get the money from them. If they're going to do that, because there's a risk, they don't have all these other safety checks in place with underwriting and servicing and all that, and securitization, they're going to just be a hard money lender to you and charge you 12%. So just there's a cost for that. That's what they're making. Well, what we're showing here is we can see where we had that massive decline, right? Where it bottomed out because of the inflation reading. Same thing happened here with the 10-year. The 10-year, when it goes up, our interest rates should be going down, right? So that's the basic thought process, because as you can see here, when that goes up, the mortgage-backed securities goes down. When those go up, the interest rates go up because the mortgage-backed securities are going down. I got that backwards. So when this is going up, right, the yield is increasing, meaning there's more leaving that area. And as a result of it, our interest rates should follow along conceivably, but they don't always do that because they're following the mortgage-backed security. So mortgage-backed security, as it declines, means they're shrinking volume inside those pools to lend out. Therefore, the rates go up, right? Supply and demand. The lower the supply, the higher the cost. So this right here goes up, rates would go up with it, right? So it reached a peak after we got the reading from the Fed with respect to inflation. That came here, had that shoot up in like 2 days, right? Same thing happened here. We were at this point, got the reading, bam, got beating, right? Then you had the Fed come out and raise rates, 0.75%. That's why this went down. That's why this went up. Money flowed in there because that's them fighting inflation. Inflation is the enemy of a long-term instrument that's set with a flat rate of return. If your rate of return is, in this instance, 4%, but inflation's going up, that means you're losing money the longer it sits there. But if they're going to fight inflation, that's going to benefit you. You should probably put money over into a long-term instrument. At least that's the thinking, right? So we've gotten to a point here where we've reached this peak, but then we pull back from that peak, right? This is what they call a head and shoulders pattern. That could be a negative sign of it going negative again, therefore putting us in a negative position, rates potentially increasing. So like I've been saying, and we'll keep saying, if you've got a deal and we can close it within the window, you lock that son of a bitch as fast as you can. That's what we got right here. Another head and shoulders pattern forming. I'm going to zoom in on this for you right there. So we got a shoulder, shoulder, head. I can't say that this is exactly going to go like that because everything's been irrational in this whole thing. But every time we see these head and shoulders patterns right here, look at that. Get some downward movement right here, downward movement. I'm just saying we could be in a position where it goes back, takes a little bit more of a beating. I can't say exactly where it's going to end, but I want to at least make you aware of what's going on out there, what we're seeing. And I will continue to scream from the rooftops, control what you can control. Interest rates today are lowest they've ever been when you compare what's going on in the market. If you look back in history at the current rate of inflation, we should have our interest rates in the teens, period. And we ain't there. Are we going to get in double digits? I don't know. But you aren't in double digits now, so you should take advantage of the situation. Lock if you can. Again, you got to make sure your property is ready, right? You can lock it, but if it expires, you can't get pissed at us when it expires. Sorry, we only have a certain window of time here. If you want to go longer locks, you got to pay for that. So just know that. Go 60, 80, 90, whatever, 300 plus, but it's an expense, right? And when that lock blows, it's gone, right? You only have one shot in extension. So we can go over those details with you. We'll give you the best we can, but we can't predict the market. We definitely can't predict how long it's going to take a house to get rehabbed or built. So stay in touch with us. Keep watching. I'll keep bringing you the best data I can, but it's all going to be pretty close to the same. Get what you can while you can get it and get it for as long as you possibly can. I'll talk to you guys on Tuesday.